You're listening to the Educated Cowgirl Podcast, episode 11. Hey Cowgirls, I am so excited to be coming back at you with another great episode. If you have listened to the intro I include on every episode, you know that a part of my mission with this podcast is to not only advocate for the equine industry, but also to help bridge the gap that seems to divide the horse community between disciplines and breeds. We all love this industry, and horses, of course, but still we tend to believe the stereotypes about each other and close our minds instead of being curious and learning from each other to become better riders, owners, and trainers. I have to admit that I am guilty of this at times, of getting caught up in the bubble of the discipline I compete in. But then I also grew up showing English and all-around classes with AQHA and have ties to another breed through my work. On today's episode, I sat down and talked with an amazing horsewoman who has not only accomplished so much in her career, but also has given so much to the equine industry through her creativity and being a voice for bringing new ideas to help promote the industry. She is a multi-AQHA World and Congress champion, a wife, a mama, a horse trainer, and a business owner. Lainie Deboer, owner of Dreamfield Stables in Minnesota. We talk about so much in this episode that I hope will inspire you to get curious and open our minds and eyes to what others are bringing into the horse world and change the way you see a discipline other than your own. Little disclaimer, a couple of the events I bring up in our conversation will have passed by the time you're listening to this episode, but are still very relevant to the conversation. This has been a longer intro, so without further ado, let's get into my discussion with Lainie. Hey, and welcome to the Educated Cowgirl Podcast, hosted by yours truly. My name is Abby Carpenter, and I am a cowgirl and equestrian through and through. I started this podcast wanting to make more of an impact in the equine industry. That's why I am making it my mission to help promote the industry to the public through sharing my love for horses through education and bringing other experts and professionals onto the podcast with me to discuss important topics that impact the horse community. So whether you are a crazy horse lady like me, want to learn more about horses, or want to learn more about the industry, you've come to the right place. On this podcast, we will be talking about ownership, horsemanship, fitness, faith, breeds, and so much more. We believe that it doesn't matter what type of saddle you ride in or the breed of horse you may ride. We all contribute to this community to make it great, and that there is always something to learn from the back of your horse. So grab a coffee and get ready to take some notes, and let's get started. This is the Educated Cowgirl Podcast. All right, so hello, Lainie, and welcome to the Educated Cowgirl Podcast. Thank you so much for talking with me today. I'm so excited to pick your brain about showing and horses in the industry.
Awesome. I'm here to have my brain picked.
Yes. All right. So to start us off, can you please introduce yourself, what you do, and a fun fact about yourself?
My name is Lainie Deboer. I specialize in hunter jumpers. I am a multiple World and Congress champion. I also serve on the Animal Welfare Commission for AQHA, the Judges Committee, and I'm a past professional horsewoman of the year. A fun fact, I was a national speed skating champion.
Nice. That's a little different than horses, but
Yes.
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 All right. So I know a little bit about your background with showing, but can you tell us how you got started with horses and how that led to starting your program and what your goal was when you started your program?
Well, I started when I was little. I was just a kind of a barn rat with my mom. She rode dressage and I just followed her to the barn, and it was just kind of a natural progression to get on, and started with dressage and thought that was super boring because I was really young, and that turned into eventing because I thought eventing was awesome and jumping was really cool. And I did 4-H and pony club and a little saddle club, just kind of a little bit of everything. Nice. And then I had a little quarter horse pony, and I did the little local hunter circuit and just kind of got with a hunter trainer, and that's kind of how that all started. And it just kind of went from there. I made the progression from ponies to junior hunters to junior jumpers and medal finals and all that stuff. And pretty much turning pro wasn't in the cards for me. I actually went to college for business. My dad had a business locally that I was thinking about helping out with, and I got an offer for a job to be a rider, and I had to stay in school. So I found a local college in Wisconsin next to the barn, and I just started riding for him and going to school, and I graduated, and I wanted to stay one more year in the area because my now husband still had one more year. So I just started teaching lessons just to pay my rent. It wasn't because I had big ambitions of being a professional. And that's literally how my this whole thing started. It was just kind of by accident. And then when he graduated, I got a job offer to ride out in Montana quarter horses, and I was like, oh, okay, I can actually make a living out of this. This is fun. So I graduated with a business degree, but went on to be a horse trainer. So that's kind of how that started.
That's great. I mean, I'm sure it resonates with other people who they kind of fell into it as well. So as you mentioned, you've accomplished so much in your career with not only with like your horses that you've trained and in the industry and all the titles you've won. And I admire the program you've built. And that really helps not only your amateurs, but others in the horse world. So what and or who inspires you to keep going every day, especially on the hard days?
And there are hard days.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I think first and foremost, my family, this has always been a family effort, a group effort. My mom and I have been kind of in this together from the get-go. When I moved back to Minnesota, we built a business together and built a barn, and we bought a barn in Ocala, Florida now. And she's always, my dad and her have always been super supportive of me. And I really feel like, even on those hard days, I think of all that they've done for me. This is a very small thing I can do for them. And I think my husband is so supportive, and my kids, I always wanted to be a role model for my girls. They're 20 and 24 now, but growing, it's hard the hard days for me were always leaving them if they had school and I had to go to Congress or World or Florida or whatever, and they couldn't come. I always thought, I wanted to be a role model for them, that if you work hard and really dedicate yourself, that you can be successful, and, just really show them kind of like a strong woman in the industry. And it really, now that they're older and they're more adult and we can talk about it, that's really something that they got out of it, as far as I always ask them, like, oh, was it hard with me being gone? And they're like, no, we loved having like the summers with you, and we could, skip school every once in a while. And, and
what kid doesn't like skipping school?
Right. I know. And they were just always so supportive and proud. So, and they're very, very independent, successful women. And it's really cool to see. So at the time, I don't know if it felt hard, like those hard days, but I just kept persevering. And now they're just like, I'm so proud of them. I can't even stand it.
That's so good. That's so good. Like, I love that, like, you have been that strong woman for your girls, but also you've shown that for other women in the industry as well, that you can have a family and be there for them, but you can also have your career at the same time. So that's so good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So with your new video series that you started about show prep and boot camp, which I think is not only great for like competitors for the show ring, but the reach that you have for other people in the industry, that it can apply to rodeos, breed shows, sortings, whatever, you name it. And I think everyone can learn something valuable from what you have to say. So where do you hope this series will go in the future for the horse community and for you?
I'm not really sure about for me. I mean, I hope it opens up more doors to meeting new people. I've had so many people on TikTok reach out to me, or like I've already booked some new clinics with different people, which I really love having the clinic aspect of it, because it's always a positive experience whenever I do a clinic, because I meet so many great people and I see some really fun horses. As far as the industry, I would say I hope this encourages other people, like other trainers, to, give back as far as letting people in to your program. I think, it feels very I don't know what the word is necessarily, but I just feel like we're a little bit of a closed group. And I think it's really important to just let people in and have a little glimpse of what I do. And I like to see what other people do. And I think that's just a really neat learning process. Like when I watch videos of some people on YouTube, I get motivated and I actually learn so much. I just learned about bits the other day from a lady in Australia. And I've had a really hard mouth, tough horse. It's got a low palate. And I learned how to find this bit called a turtle bit. So, I mean, how neat is that I found that on TikTok or YouTube? And it was a woman that I reached out to through Australia, so I think that's what we need to do. We need to kind of connect ourselves together a little bit, because there's so many, even though she's into dressage, it's still like the basic idea of a low palated horse is a low palated horse. I don't care if you run barrels or, ride dressage or do hunter jumper, but you can always be open to learning stuff. So I kind of hope that's what. It's funny too, because I've seen a couple of my friends now have started TikToks. So it's like super cool that they're doing that. I think it's really fun.
No, and that's like everything you just said is a big part of the reason why I started this podcast, not only to promote the industry, but to kind of bridge the gap that we seem to create without even realizing it. And I like the term turtle bit. I'm gonna have to Google that later because I have no idea what that means.
The turtle bit is awesome. Yeah. I wanna try to actually create my own bit with this turtle bit, because all the horses I rode in it the last couple days love it. So I think I'm onto something.
So great. That's so great. Those Aussies just get it.
I know. Well, it's funny too, because I'm gonna talk to a friend of mine who makes bits, Gino Spagnola. And he does Western bits at a bit. I'm going to see if he can maybe make me an English bit. I think it'd be kind of fun. So
nice. So along lines of connecting with each other and learning from each other, which is so important and something you talk about a lot all the time. But because a lot of times I've noticed this, I don't know if you've noticed this, that a lot of times when people start writing, they'll start out either just English or just Western, and then they kind of will close themselves off. And then when they hear about another discipline or another breed, they'll believe the stereotypes they hear about it. Like, I don't know, the whole English versus Western debate. And then crazy barrel racers, like, I don't know what else. But there's a lot of them, which divides the community, which is what the horse industry is a community. So what I would like to ask you is, with learning from each other to become better riders and trainers and competitors, how do you feel that can help us grow as an industry for future generations?
So I love this question because it got me thinking. And actually, do you ever watch Ted Lasso?
Yes.
Okay. So like one of my most favorite scenes of all time in Ted Lasso is when he says, "Be curious, not judgmental."
Oh, I love
and
that.
I think that's something, I think I resonated with that so much, because I think that you have to be curious. You can't just all of a sudden think, oh, that's a crazy barrel racer. Well, when you really break down, like when I watch barrel racing videos, there's so much strategy. It's so difficult. The way that they place their horses, the way they have to curl around the barrels, the way they have to accelerate so fast, the way they have to have the horse straight and then bending. So, like for me, that's curiosity. You have to kind of drop the stereotype. And I think if we, you know, that's what I try to do. Like I try to look at like Western riding and trail and kind of learn from them we're all on the same page. We're all interconnected. We all want the same things. We want connection. We want our horses to, collect, accelerate. We have track work. We have positions, there's so many things that are so similar. And I think you can learn from any discipline across the board, even racing, even the way they take care of those horse races or those race horses, or NRHA, how they carry their balance through the fast circles and how they get their horses to spin and do the slow circles. So I don't know. I am a curious person, and I really don't like to be judgmental. So I guess that's why that saying just kind of, and I think that we need to do more of that. I think we do. I think people do kind of get in their own little area and stay within their own little world, and they don't open their mind. And if you don't, then I don't think you're ever going to go forward. You're always going to remain stagnant. I think you have to always look ahead. It's never enough for me. I just have to constantly, I love lessons. I love clinics. I take lessons all the time. I just think that's super healthy, and that's kind of what I think our industry needs more of, honestly.
Yeah, that's so good. I totally agree with that you have to open your mind up, because I work for the Arabian Association, and then I've also had my parents have background with working with them. And so I had friends who they were on the rodeo team in college, or I have friends who are like, oh, Arabians are just crazy. They're so ugly. And I'm like, that's a closed-minded approach to that.
Yes.
You need to open your mind. And I'm like, come on, guys. They're really versatile. We have our ranch horse championships this weekend in Loveland. So, and a lot of people are probably Arabians can't do cow stuff. And I'm like, yes, they can. But
and they jump. Oh my God. They're so pretty, and they jump so good. I had a friend that she actually was a big, I think she was on the Olympic team for show jumping, and she ended up getting a really, really good job riding Arabian hunters. And I would just pick her brain. I'm like, what was it like? Oh my gosh. What's it like to judge it? What's it like to show at it? Just because I'm curious, I think it's really healthy. And she just had nothing but wonderful things to say. She's like, oh my gosh, they get the baddest rap. They're like the most scopy horses. They're athletic. They're intelligent. They're fun to ride. They're balanced. And so, I think that's what you can't just all of a sudden throw the stereotype up and then throw a wall up. And then it's just one type of horse.
Exactly. Because that's when, like you said, that's when you go backwards or you get stuck.
Yeah.
You're looking in the rearview mirror instead of out your front window.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. So speaking of the future and present, as you know, trends in the show world can come and go so quickly, and from style of clothing to how the judging style, all that stuff, and it can be hard to keep up. So as a professional horsewoman, what do you see in terms of trends in the industry that you think are going to stick around for a while or fade away? And where do you see the industry going in the next 5 years?
Well, I would say on a surface level, I see that I think it's going to stick around. I wish it wouldn't. For the quarter horse stuff, I've seen a trend of not being super traditional with English attire. You're seeing these kind of out there coats and embellishments, and it's really not traditional within what we do. I think we've lost kind of the purpose of the class. You know, it was a hunt field. I used to hunt, actually. I was a part of a hunt. And when you had the hunt, you maybe did have a little piping on your collar for the color of your hunt. And you had buttons on your jacket that were special, but you had to earn those. And I just think that, you know, I kind of see these like red shirts and black shirts, and I literally show on a navy jacket, maybe a gray jacket or green, hunter green, but a white shirt and buff, you know, buff breeches. But that's kind of on the surface. On the bigger picture of things that I'm seeing in the industry is that, and this is, I laugh about this with my other friends that are professionals, because we're like, oh my gosh, we're the old people in the group that are kind of looking to complain. But I see that people are, I think that there's that younger generation that are skipping a lot of steps in training. They're losing kind of that foundational aspect in it. I don't know if it's a money thing that they have to keep going hard and do these futurities and try to churn out these horses. But I think that, you know, what I find is that if we lose that, putting that foundation on that horse and going slow and meeting that horse's needs, the horse suffers in the end. And I think that the younger generation kind of grew up with a lot of technology and things that came to them quickly, and they've just kind of want instant gratification. And with horses, that's just not the way it is. Like, you might go a centimeter at a time, you might go a foot at a time in a horse's training. It depends on the horse. And I've always, in my training program, you know, treated every horse individually. But I kind of feel like some of these trainers with these big programs that are maybe newer or younger are just, you know, bringing as many horses as they can. They're putting them all in the same box. And, you know, the flip side of that is, you know, on a welfare issue, I'm on the Animal Welfare Commission actually with your dad. And I just, it comes out in some welfare areas, and that is just really disheartening to me, because I think it's just a lot of skipping steps and trying to achieve things really fast, and it's a slow process. You have to be diligent and you have to be thorough, and if you're not, the horse suffers, and that's where I have a big problem.
Yes. You definitely have to put in the work for it, and I think, like you said, they see a lot of things on social media and on the digital world, and they see these videos of these top trainers doing these great things. They're like, I want to do that. And I'm like, hold on. You're not there yet. You still got a lot to learn. Like, your horse isn't there yet. You're not there yet. Like, I know I had to learn that when I was younger, and like, I'm just starting to realize that, like, slow down. It's good. You got time. You will get there.
It's so true. And I think I think you're right, though. Social media is a sticky wicket, because you see, you know, people with these big trucks and these big trailers, and they're going to this show and going to that show and winning this and winning that. And that puts pressure on other people to feel like they need to keep up with that. And that's when kind of problems arise. And I see it more and more. I've seen it a lot in the last 5 years. And I do worry about that, you know, that, and I don't really, I mean, obviously welfare is like number one for AQHA right now and a lot of other associations, but it is a concern of mine for sure.
Yes. And I think that's where it's struggling with, like, when younger people, when they get a job at a barn, they get told to clean stalls, and they're like, oh, I thought I was going to get to ride more. And I'm like, no, start cleaning stalls and then let them trust you enough that you can put in the work. So then they'll put you on like a client's very finished horse that you can flip around.
I used to be a groom, and I used to be a braider, and I mucked a lot of stalls, and I drove a lot of truck and trailer. It wasn't, you know, this didn't come poof overnight. It's 30 years in the making. So, you know, you have to start somewhere. Where I don't see that now, I don't think that a lot of these people want to have horses to show, and I don't know, you have to put in the time for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely something I realized this summer actually was like you're never too good to clean stalls. Like
oh no, I
even
still
if
do.
you're yeah, like even if you're like a top professional like you who has all these
Yeah.
titles under her belt, like you can still pick up a fork and clean a stall if it needs to get done. Like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
it
Oh
like
yeah. Well,
don't be like, "Oh, the groom will do it." Like, no, if it needs to be done, do it. Like yes.
yeah. When my guys go on vacation, Lainey has to muck. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll be mucking all
So
winter actually.
great. Awesome. So, all right. So I know you got to get to your birthday dinner, but
Oh yeah.
for one final question, so for any final nuggets or nugget of advice you have for people that are wanting to learn outside of their discipline and open their minds more, but maybe they're not really sure where they can start to do this, what advice would you have for them? And then what advice would you have for young professionals that hope to have a program like yours one day?
Um, well, the first part of that question, I'm really lucky in Ocala because I live near World Equestrian Center, and there's so many, there's dressage, there's pasafinos, there's saddlebreds, there's every kind of horse show that you can imagine. So, and actually I'd never been to an NCEA event, and they had the national championships there. So I try to go to all the shows that I can and sit down and watch, because I think it's just kind of really cool. And like the NCEA thing was like a whole nother, I mean, you never know what can open up for you I say, just my nugget is go out and experience everything you can, even rodeo. Like we go to the NFR in December when we can, but that's the best piece of advice that I can give you that I've figured out, and I just think it's really fun. It just kind of opens up your mind a little bit. It kind of cross pollinates. As far as professionals coming in, I think we kind of covered it as far as, you're going to have to start from the bottom and work your way up, and don't expect things to happen really fast. If things are happening fast, then you probably got to pump the brakes and slow everything down so you don't skip anything along the way.
Yes.
And I would say, really don't worry so much about the amount of horses that somebody's going to give you to ride, or, dangle all this horse showing in front of you. You want to be with the right people on the right horses. And if that means maybe taking less money from a person that you can learn more from, I would say do it, even if you have to volunteer your time or be an intern or whatever. If you're going to work with somebody that's top of the line that you respect or is respected in the industry, I say, bite the bullet and earn a little less money, because the amount that you'll get from that person will pay off down the road. And as far as the horse flesh is concerned, you might not get 10 horses to ride in a day. Maybe you only get 2, but they're going to be 2 really nice horses, and you're going to learn a lot more.
Yes.
So,
yes, I love that. I love that. Learn from the right people. That's so good. And that also, like what you said about the fun event, about going to different events, that resonates so much, to reach out to those younger generations that are still looking at, like, where do I want to go with horses? Like, I started taking lessons, but I don't really know what I want to do with it. And it also, for new horse owners that are still learning, if they can get out and go to these different events, they can understand our industry more and kind of have more fun with it. So that's so good.
Yeah, because I was just talking to a friend of mine, and he really doesn't want to jump anymore. But we were talking about, what would we do if we couldn't jump? And he's like, I would get a ranch rider. I think that looks like so much fun. So then I was like, I'm going to start watching the ranch rail classes. So I watch ranch rail, ranch trail, and I'm like, oh, I think I could do that if there will be a day where I'll definitely not want to jump anymore, but I still love horses. So
Yeah.
That would be like so fun. Or maybe I want to own a reiner or an Arab, or, get
Mhm.
into it. Like my girlfriend who does hunters, she has a bunch of minis and she loves going to those mini shows because they're just a breath of fresh air for her.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
so
I
good.
think it's so healthy. It's just kind of,
Yeah.
I mean, we're all enjoying horses, right? That's what it boils down to.
Yeah, and I think like we start out loving horses, but then we kind of like get competitive within each discipline, saying one discipline's better than the other. And I'm like, no, we're all here to build each other up. So, yeah.
True. It's true. I totally agree. I wish that more associations would cross-pollinate a little bit, as far as even having like a round table discussion. I've always encouraged the AQHA to approach other associations to have like a summit and kind of like have a little bit of our own convention within all of the disciplines, and just kind of have a summit and say what's working, where are your issues, where are your problems, where are we succeeding,
Hmm.
what are we doing well, because I think we all have kind of similar problems with
Hmm.
membership or horse shows, or how do we create that youth movement with a grassroots situation. Like maybe there's the Morgan Association has figured out how to promote more youths into the Morgan shows, and maybe the hunter jumper people could figure that out, or AQHA could talk to the paint people and say, wow, what's been increasing your membership, because our membership is stagnant, and how did you do it, or how do you run your world shows? Or I just think that it would be really fun to have kind of that, get everybody together in the same room, and kind of have a little summit. That's my goal
That would
someday.
be such a great idea if we could get
Oh,
them all
yeah.
together. Of
Oh,
course,
I know.
some associations might try and take it over everybody else, but I think that'd be such a good idea
I think that'd
to
be so fun. I
get
don't know.
everyone together. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
because
that'd
I
be.
mean, there's been some associations that have been more successful than others, right? And I think the people that are struggling with numbers need to learn from the people that are doing really well and what they've done and what programs they've created, and
Yeah.
go from there. So what if you mimic them? That's like
Yeah,
the
because I mean, we've been breeding
form of flattery.
Arabians and quarter horses and thoroughbreds and quarter horses and Arabians and thoroughbreds together for years. But why
Yes.
can't the associations come together other than like the EVPs coming together to talk, but like have more people than just the head people come together?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
great. So I love to end my interviews with a this or that game.
Okay.
So I'll give you two different options and you can tell me which one you prefer. All right, morning or evening?
Oh, morning.
Morning.
Yeah.
Great. All
I'm a
right.
morning girl.
Nice. Breakfast or dinner?
Oh, good one. Um, I'd say half and half. Sometimes I love breakfast and sometimes I like dinner.
Yeah, breakfast for dinner. I don't
Yeah, oh, I love breakfast for dinner. Actually, my favorite thing is is Cracker Barrel pancake mix.
Oh,
We have Cracker
yes.
Barrel pancakes for dinner. Yeah, it's my favorite.
Nice, nice. Mares or geldings?
Oh, it used to be mares. I have more geldings now, but I am kind of a mare girl at heart.
All right. Sweet or
That's all.
salty?
Speed or salty?
No, sweet or salty.
Oh, salty, salty. Yeah, I'll take a
Oh,
bag of
nice,
chips over cake any day. Yeah,
nice. Dogs or cats?
dogs.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
All right. So, Lainey, I love everything you're doing with the quarter horse world and with your program and the industry. And I have looked up to you for many years, and this conversation is no exception. So, thank you
Oh,
again for taking the time to talk to me again.
well, thank you for having me. That's really sweet and
Yeah,
kind.
yes. And for those who are interested, where can people find you and follow along with your video series and your social media platforms?
Well, I am just under Lainie Deboer. It's pretty much that simple. I think that's what it is under TikTok. I think it's Lainie Deboer. And I think on my Facebook page, it's Lainie Deboer as well. Yeah, it's
Nice,
pretty simple.
nice.
Yeah, there aren't many Lainie Deboers out there, so
Perfect. Perfect. Nice and simple. Love it.
yes,
All
yes, yes, yes.
right. Well, thank you again.
All right. Well, sounds good. Thanks for having me. And if you need anything, let me know.
All right. Thank you. Wow, I took so much away from that conversation, and I took away a lot of advice for myself as a professional in this industry. I hope you took something away as well, and it inspired you to find local events in your area that will expose you to learn from another breed or maybe try a new equestrian sport. As Lainie said, if we don't open our minds, we can't move forward, and we will only be set back. When we are driving, we don't drive looking out the rearview mirror. You have to set your eyes on the future, and what is going to bring us together is learning from each other and coming together as a community to grow for younger generations. This will also inspire younger generations just starting out to take a step back and want to find the right people for them to learn from and not be afraid to start at the bottom. As we all know, success does not happen overnight, regardless of what we might see on social media. You are never too good to clean stalls, and we are all still learning and growing as to become better riders and competitors. As Lainie quoted the great Ted Lasso, "Be curious, not judgmental." The only ones that can do that are the ones that do it fairly and get paid to do it at the horse show. When we judge each other for the discipline we ride in or the breed we work with, that will only pull us apart. As always, if you loved this episode, please screenshot it and share it on your stories and tag me at The Educated Cowgirl. And if you want to follow along with Lainie and her video series, as she said, you can find her at Lainie Deboer, LainieDeboer on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Educated Cowgirl podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, learned something new, and will come back for more. But for now, stay blessed and ride on, cowgirls.